Greetings. The Adrian Dominican Sisters welcome you to a presentation of a sister story. I am Sister Peg O'Flynn, and today we are having a conversation with our Sister Kathleen Morrissey, who is presently residing and ministering in Indianapolis, Indiana. And Kathleen, who we'll call Kathy, was formerly known as Sister Therese Eileen. So she'll fill us in on all this significant, at least some of them, because she's had a long life with us. She's celebrating her 60th Jubilee as an Adrian Dominican Sister. So that is very special, Kathy. So you can tell us from the beginning, if you would just begin with something about your family, where you grew up, your siblings, whatever you want to tell us about your family, because that's a very significant time and had a lot on your beginnings, had a lot on who you are right now.
That's right. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Gary, Indiana, on the south end in Glen Park. And my parents were older when they got married. My mom was 29. My dad was 32. And they had 7 kids in a 10-year span, plus 2 miscarriages, one before the last one and one after. And so there were 5 girls and 2 boys in our family, and I was between 2 boys. It was a great family. Naturally, it's not until you get older you realize the blessing you experience being part of a family. Mm-hmm. And when I think of my childhood, to me, it was a happy childhood. I remember simple things about my dad. He was very quiet and gentle, but I remember things like he worked in the steel mills. And I remember we always knew we called it payday because we didn't have a car till I got in 8th grade. Wow. And he would get off like 7 blocks away from the house, go to Mama's Bakery and bring Rose home. And that was a treat. Uh-huh. And the other thing I remember about him is when we were in the primary grades and I went to a Catholic grade school, when we would be getting ready to go to church on Sunday, he would always curl our girls' hair in the old-fashioned curling iron. And it's the kind of curling iron you literally have to stick in the fire on the stove. Oh, and he would test it with the newspaper. So, but when I think of that, and we always knew when it was our birthday, if we were 12, we got 12 pennies. We were 10.
That was your birthday present.
Yes.
How special. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And my mom, because there were so many of our kids and they had built a new house at the end, south end of Gary, my mom started working full time when I was in 2nd grade.
Okay.
And so I think of her as a woman before her time.
Exactly.
Very prophetic, hardworking. And because she didn't get married till 29, she used to be a lifeguard, okay? Uh-huh. Literally. And so in grade school, every summer, one of the fun things, because we didn't have money to go on like vacations, we always went to Miller Beach. She would cart, like usually about 4 of us at a time, 2 buses, one to downtown Gary, get on another bus, and go to Miller Beach. And to this day, Lake Michigan, the water, I love it. It's refreshing, a gift, wonderful memories.
Good. I can feel that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me something about your brothers and sisters? I mean, a large family. Oh, my.
Oh, okay. My older sister died when I was in my early 50s. She used to live in Louisville. I've got a lot of, I counting great nieces and nephews and some great ones. I have 72 of them.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And so that was my oldest sister, Barbara. My other 2 older sisters still alive. They have health issues, but they live in Chesterton, Indiana, which is next to Valpo.
Okay.
Okay. My older brother died 12 years ago, born and raised his family in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And then my brother Patrick, he's still alive. He lives in South Carolina, outside in a retirement community outside of Hilton Head.
Okay.
And then my youngest sister Eileen lives right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. So like I say, I came from a large family, and just last weekend, just came back Sunday from a huge family reunion.
Wow.
And we've been doing this one for at least 8 years from the Santa Claus cottages in southern Indiana. So we sort of take over the whole place. We rent all these cabins.
Yeah, Santa Claus cottages.
Yeah. So, good family, now that we're all getting older, I'm just very aware of the fragileness of life.
Exactly. And to treasure each moment we have with our family members.
Big time.
Right.
Yeah.
So your school, where did you go to school?
Oh, okay. In grade school, I went to St. Mark's, and that was run by the Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ from Donaldson.
Right.
And then in high school, I went to our Mount St. Mary Academy in St. Charles.
St. Charles, yes.
And the reason why was my oldest sister, at that time, and even in my time, there was no Catholic high school in Gary.
Okay.
And my oldest sister got intrigued with boarding school. And so my parents, my mom, researched it, found them out. And I can remember even in 8th grade thinking, oh, we're going to run out of money and my Cinderella dream is going to be gone. But no, we didn't. And so I, went to the Mount and had a great time, great nuns and great friends there.
Was there someone in particular that you would say, really inspired you to religious life? Yeah.
Yes. It was Sister Therese. And I think, when I was reflecting over, that period, I think the reason why I even maybe entered that order, okay, is because, first of all, being in boarding school, I saw the humanity of our community, and I liked what I saw. And Therese to me was very normal, very real, and I guess I appreciated it. And the old phrase we've always heard, if you met one Adrian Dominican, you met one. And that's the way I experienced it.
That's good. Tell me, Kathy, what was it about her that she was real?
She wasn't afraid to share her feelings, let alone her opinion. And I found her very verbally affirming.
Okay.
It was the way she interacted with us girls, that she didn't come across, I hate to use the phrase, but that stereotype nun, holier than thou, no, and I think that was the gift of maybe seeing the nuns around all the time. You saw them, warts and all, but it was never to an extreme.
That's right. Usually we hear when people have had an experience with various religious communities, the Adrians were the happiest. They seemed very happy. Not that they didn't see some happiness in the others, but and I'm familiar with the Poor Handmaids. I've been to some meetings there. Lovely group of women.
Yes, they were good.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So you went to the Mount.
Right.
I had a very dear friend who was from there, Marge Neighbor.
The name I know, but I don't know.
But she was a tad bit younger. All right, so then it looks like you entered the congregation right after high school.
I did.
Like immediately. Those of us that graduated in May, we entered in June.
Right. And at the end of August, I was sent out to teach as a pastor.
I know it. I was going to ask you, how'd you feel about that?
Well, at that time you did what you were supposed to, but when I look back, I just shake my head. because, no expertise, no, training, but that's the way life was then. And you did what you were supposed to do, and you went along with it. I was, as a young nun and even as a child, I was very obedient, okay, very quiet, and didn't ask a lot of questions. It wasn't until I got older and came into my own. And I think that's what our community in Vatican II did.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So what did you teach when you first
in those 6 years, I taught 4th grade, but they kept sending me down to 1st grade because I not only liked at that time little children, but I was very patient with them.
Wonderful.
And I think that's why they, kept moving me down. And then eventually I went for my master's after, I got my bachelor's.
Okay. And then you went into another ministry.
Right. I went to, for my master's, St. Paul University in Ottawa, Canada.
Ottawa. Okay. I've been there.
Loved that time there. And then I went into parish ministry, always working in some level with adults. And even though I love children, I just felt that, no, I'm not meant to stay interacting, with children. So I've been in parish ministry, most of practically all my, adult life, except for the first.
It's wonderful.
Years. Yeah.
Yes. And as I say, I noticed, excuse me, you mostly taught in Michigan, and now you're in Indiana. Yeah.
Yes. The last, good 30 years I've been in Indiana. Yeah. So
now, how close is Gary to where you are right now?
Well, none of my siblings live in Gary now.
Okay.
But I would say it takes me a good 3 hours to get to my sisters, which isn't bad.
Yeah. How did you get to Indianapolis? Were you invited, or did you see the ad?
I saw an ad that was run in the diocesan newspaper at that time, and when I first got here, it was one pastor, and then he retired after 3 or 4 years, and then we got another one. But a great pastor, good group of staff people. So I was pleased.
As I think of you coming from a large family and then going to a boarding school, you probably acclimated well at the boarding school because you're used to a big crowd.
Oh, yes, right. And the neat thing is, though, every year I always had close friends, and so I can even remember when I was a junior inviting one of my girlfriends for a weekend at our house.
Oh, nice.
And vice versa, But unfortunately, when I entered in 1961, the attitude, which was pre-Vatican II, you sort of broke ties with your friends.
Yeah.
So, but then God is a wonderful God, how he evolves, and you make new friends wherever you're at, So it turned out okay.
Yeah, so the God in you. So you met significant people along your path and your journey to where you are now. Yes. Are there some in particular that you recall how they inspired you, and what was it that they did that inspired you?
Oh, big time. One of them is a deceased Capuchin priest, Father Malcolm Maloney. And he was awesome. Everyone loved him. I can remember, first of all, to me, he was so saintly, and I remember even asking him, there's two things about him when I think of him. One was, I used to say to him, well, Malcolm, how did you get this way? You're never critical. You're never, you just seem so like perfect, so loving and et cetera, et cetera. And he says, oh, Kathy, I this is who I am. I didn't develop it. So I learned a great lesson from him, that don't judge a book by its cover or compare yourself, because you may look at somebody and think, wow, I wish I had their attributes or their qualities, and look at little me. I realized we are all gifted differently. And I learned that years later through the Enneagram. Okay.
Right.
And I taught the Enneagram to hundreds of people. But the other strong thing about Malcolm is at that period of history, he took a strong a stand towards an injustice. And I'll never forget that, because it's like, wow, he gave us a lot of hope in the institutional church. Okay.
Good.
So that was one. And then I go back to a nun in our community who's, I think, I haven't had a chance to really visit her. I think she lives in Regina, Sister Margaret Urban.
Right, she does.
Okay. Yes. And she was my principal in Superior.
And Jackson.
Exactly. And I learned a lot from her. She was, I think I came into my own realizing that I was a good teacher. She was very affirming. And in fact, one time I slipped and even called her mom. Okay. Yeah. And I realized as I reflected back, like, wow, she was like almost like a surrogate mother to me, you know.
That's interesting. She's a great woman. Yeah.
And then naturally, when I think of significant people, John the 23rd. Okay. I had a chance to be in Rome years ago, and it was a time when they took his casket and put it on the first level at the basilica so people can see it.
Right, yeah.
And I'll never forget in my life to this day, kneeling in front, and of course they had a glass encase, over his body and face, but he looked like he had just died. And they said that it wasn't a miracle, but it was the kind of chemicals that was placed in him. Okay. Yeah, he looked like he just died. And I remember praying and looking at him and saying, you have made all the difference in my life. And I think with him and then the directives in our community, I'm very thankful for him. And then naturally all the good things that I buy in Pope Francis. And so, all these significant people their messages say a lot. And then different authors I've read, big time. Okay. Have made.
What are you reading right now?
Okay. I just finished one book by Matthew Fox on Julian of Norwich. Okay. And I had just right before that or after that, I'm a strong fan of Richard Rohr.
Yes.
I used to use his cassette tapes. Okay. So I think I've read every book, and I facilitated his book on the Trinity. You name it, and he just gives me a lot of hope. The same thing with Matthew Fox.
Two great men, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there something in your long time ago or immediate past that was a tremendous experience for you, that you learned something about yourself that you didn't?
Well, I think the more workshops I went to, okay, when I worked in Fort Wayne, I used to go on the summers to like a week update for, different topics.
Yes.
And so it's different workshops I went to there really facilitated me. Not only, like I remember going to a whole week workshop on dreams. And I value, yes. And so I value the gift of dreams as part of my spirituality. I took a class years there on eco-spirituality. And I had never heard of that phrase because that was when it was first surfacing, that whole idea.
Explain it for people that may not know.
Okay, in a nutshell, it's creation spirituality. It's that whole idea that God is present everywhere, that he's not equal to God, but separate from God. And that was, I think, the beginning for me where my spirituality deepened, broadened, even changed. It wasn't so black and white. The other thing, I was very strong when I worked in Fort Wayne, beginning a retreat for women called Christ Renews His Parish.
Right. Okay.
And I think in giving even witness talks, and I was the spiritual director then for all these different teams over the years, I learned the fragileness of life. I learned where I had come from, which was okay, at that period of generation. But I used to say, when I was growing up, the name of the game is follow the rules. You follow the rule will keep you. Cleanliness is next to God.
Yeah.
Okay, blah, blah, blah. But when I look at myself now, I'm going to say I'm very much so believing in non-dual holistic approach to life. I either or, okay, but both and.
Both and, good.
And that whole idea of the third way. So I feel I've grown a lot through different workshops. I'm a reader, like not just psychology, but spirituality, and I just value certain, let's say, national magazines I read online. So I feel I've learned a lot and continue to learn. I used to think when I was young, you're going to have your act together by 40. Yeah. And, here I am much older, and it's like I'm still on a journey. I'm still learning.
Good.
Still discovering. And
Good.
It's good, I don't know if you know an old poem. It's called something like A Bicycle Ride with God. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It was like, and I'm terrible quoting lines, but it was like when I was young, I was in charge riding my bike. And then somewhere along the line, I found Christ being in front of me, and I was behind him. And he took me to all kinds of places. And when I get down and depressed, he keeps saying, keep pedaling.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So.
Don't you think that that's one of the gifts of aging, moving along in life, how we become more in touch with who we are and not who we think other people think we should be?
Yes.
And to be at peace with that.
Yes.
With who I am.
Right. And that's where, I did in this parish a series on Meister Eckhart.
Wow.
And yeah. And I can remember even when I did it, this good Krishna friend said to me, well, didn't you learn that, in the community? Because he's Dominican.
Yeah.
And I went, that's not where we were at.
No, exactly.
And so, his teaching, let alone Julian and Norwich and some other mystics, but his teaching helped me to really see what's most important is the essence of who we are and not what we do. And I had to learn that through the years.
Good. Is there something about you that, I don't know how many people know you, but your crowd certainly knows that you've, been around. Is there something about you that maybe we'd be surprised to know about you?
Probably two things. One would be my love of flowers. I remember when Mary Jane Levinsky was my chapter prioress, and when she came to visit me, and somehow we ended up standing on maybe she was leaving there in the back porch, and I have this teeny tiny patio, but I have tons of flower pots. And she was so like, wow. And I said, oh yeah. I said, I call this my secret prayer garden.
Wonderful.
Okay. It's very hard in the winter not being able to sit outside and pray. So that's one thing. And I think the other thing, my mom was Hungarian, and my sisters and I always say we have the gypsy blood in us.
Your mother was what?
Hungarian.
Okay.
The phrase.
Yeah.
And when I was much younger, and it was in Fort Wayne, one of the priests I worked with, he and I would sponsor educational trips outside of the country. And because if I got enough people, I didn't have to pay, just
right. I did that. Right. Uh-huh.
And so I've been to a lot of countries, and probably the one dearest to me is the Holy Land.
Okay.
I've been to the Holy Land 3 times. And that's where scripture comes alive to me, because I recall, oh yeah, I was there, or I was there, So I don't go on and on about my traveling when I was younger, but my sisters and I now say, thank goodness we traveled when we were young, because now no way could we walk.
No, that's true. Did you ever attend the Holy Land experience at Weber Center?
No. Maybe
Yeah.
because I've been to the Holy Land 3 times, I've I can recall so much of the Holy Land in my mind and heart and pictures.
But that I'd never been to the Holy Land, but yes, that was a great experience, because they did bring so much in, and then I was part of it for so many years. What are you most proud of about yourself?
Being able to listen, okay, being able to learn, being able to, I've always felt strongly, like even in my ministry, let alone my family, etc., to help people claim their own goodness and beauty. And I feel God has blessed me with that ability. But even at a deeper level, I'm thankful for God's faithfulness to me in my journey, okay, at the most profound level, because if it wasn't for the movement and presence of God, I couldn't do anything. Because, and that's where I go back to Eckhart's phrase, my ground is God's ground is my ground, okay? And also I have a phrase every year on my work calendar. This is a work calendar. Okay. And every year I put somehow, wherever I'm at, I put a new picture on, okay, my calendar.
Yeah.
And so the one for 2/21 is the famous phrase from Julian in Norwich. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. And facilitating that book by Matthew Fox helped me through the pandemic, not only in my own journey. See, I live alone, so, what do? Just go to the store and go to work.
And not Adrian, Dominicans are not around you, are not near you.
Exactly. Yes. And I saw some of my family, but not that often.
No.
At all. And so that spirituality, having been engrossed in it on a Zoom gathering, has taught me to always try to balance what is before you. Don't get caught in the heaviness. And I mean, let's face it, our world, our country, everything is chaotic, okay?
It's heavy.
But see the beauty. And I'm thankful that God, and I go back to God has blessed me with being able to see the goodness and beauty in all kinds of things and in all kinds of people, whether it's in a flower or looking at my great niece who's expecting in September, okay, or holding one of my great little nephews that was only 14 months old.
Oh,
it's and being able to share that, and also learn from others. I feel that as you listen to other people's journey and story, you learn a lot about life. And I'm thankful that I want to keep learning, keep traveling, keep sharing, because to me, in a nutshell, it's all about love. I mean, if I were to put one word, and I'm thankful. I've always been thankful as an Adrian Dominican, and where we're at in our, convictions. So proud that, yes, I believe in what we stand for, and I have valued it all and continue to learn and grow, So.
What a blessing. Do you have a sense, briefly, where the Holy Spirit is leading you at this time? Or
that's mystery.
Huh?
It's mystery.
Oh,
I do take a day at a time. I have no idea, I'm in my senior years. How long will I continue to work? I love what I do. So far, I'm able to keep trucking. And I just am open to the evolution of how God, I like the phrase, I think, I don't know, I don't think Richard Rohr coined it, but the idea, don't fight against the water, but go with the flow of the river of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's how I do it,
Yeah. The parishioners must love you there. How long have you been in that parish?
13 years.
Yeah.
13 years. Good people, very kind people. And I'm glad now we can just start having things not on Zoom. We're just starting that in office.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, thank God, because, and for everybody, it has not been an easy year for all kinds of reasons.
Mm-hmm. But even there's lots of goodness that happened in the meantime, which we realize that. So anyway, is there anything you want to add that I didn't ask you that you thought, well, I hope she asked me this or what?
Let's see. Well, not really. One of the things that you asked was, do you have a favorite scripture passage?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you asked that because, of course, I never know where it's quoted from. So, I knew it was from Micah. But my favorite passage continues to be the one that says, act justly, have mercy, and walk humbly with God. And, that's to me our call, and that's what I believe in. And I see it not just in my community. I see it in so many good people. I see it in my siblings, and I have a heart of gratitude that there's so much goodness out there, even in the midst of chaos.
Right. A peace and gentleness. Well, thank you, Kathy, for sharing. This has been a very special, sacred half hour with you. I didn't know you, and you certainly are a remarkable woman. You've been about a lot. And I think you learned a lot, or you were very inspired in your youth. I keep thinking of your birthday presents each year. No, that's a very tender remembrance, with the way the world is going. So you certainly bring a lot of beauty and goodness and kindness. And you are a treasure. In the name of the congregation, I thank you. And you should write to Janet Doyle and would you like to do a workshop at Weber?
Oh, I don't know at this point in time, but thank you. And I want to affirm, though, all the good work you're doing by these interviews. I haven't watched all of them.
Oh, no, I haven't either.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
And I think you do a fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad I was finally able to make a connection.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that affirmation. It's hard sometimes because I get so many rejections. I mean, people don't want to do it. So anyway, this was a treasure, and I thank you. It's a nice way to spend. Is it Friday afternoon? No, it's only Thursday. Thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
I'll be with you. And this should be on in a couple weeks.
Okay, very good. God bless you.